I think it's a really exciting time to be a lawyer. Lawyers have the opportunity to lead here. There's not a lot of instances where lawyers have the opportunity to lead in organizations, especially instances where lawyers can drive meaningful, tangible monetary value. And it's not just coming up with a acceptable AI use policy for our organization. If you think about organizations with big legal spend, with big compliance spend, actually, general counsels don't get the ability often to say to their board, to their CEO, hey, I found a way to save $500,000. This is one of the instances.
Hey there, welcome to the AI Sidekick, the show designed to help you banish your AI anxiety. I'm your host, Ryan Heath, from Robin AI. Today, I'm joined by Jordi Goodman, a legal expert with deep experience in private markets, compliance, and AI-driven legal operations. Jordi's career spans everything from being legal counsel at Partners Group, one of the world's largest private markets investment firms, to founding Beneficial Law, where he helps firms navigate complex regulatory challenges like the Corporate Transparency Act and compliance around that. And he's a longtime friend of Robin. So welcome to the podcast, Jordi.
Thanks, Ryan. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Now, you've spent years inside investment firms. Now you're working with companies in implementing AI in legal workflows. And today we're going to explore a little bit about how AI is transforming all of those legal teams and strategies and what it means for the firms that you work with. Can you sort of maybe start by telling us a little bit about what's the real impact of AI-powered legal tech on the sorts of firms that you work with? How are you seeing sort of AI adoption change since we've had these couple of years since ChatGPT exploded onto the scene?
Sure. So there's two parts. I think there's one, the AI impact on law firms and legal professionals, and two, the impact on clients, which law firms and legal professionals are serving. The impact on law firms has been pretty big, and the impact on clients has the potential to be even bigger. And that's what's exciting about where we're at. I think when you think of law firms and how they've evolved over the years and the emergence of AI, the ability to do tons of tasks that were historically really expensive, really time-consuming, basic blocking and tackling, things like managing checklists, things like notes, things like generation and negotiation of high volumes of documents. The AI tools have really enhanced the ability of attorneys who are focused on effectively using AI to do that work more efficiently, to do that work more cost effectively and predictably for their clients. And clients really have the opportunity to benefit now by using firms that are actually taking AI seriously and can really get a ton of benefits in terms of cost, in terms of service level. And one sort of area I love that is really benefiting clients is predictability. I think cost certainty has been such a pain point for so many clients for so long in terms of using outside counsel. And the ability to say to an alternative legal services provider or to a truly AI-enabled law firm, hey, we want these 500 contracts summarized and not sort of just have an hourly timer running the whole time and have cost certainty and predictability into that is massive. And then for kind of bigger firms with legal departments that were getting bogged down in that work, it's huge. It's huge to have the bandwidth to actually give your organization great legal advice and not be getting bogged down in task after task after task. And that's what, to me, powerful AI-driven legal operations really is.
And now tell me a bit about Beneficial Law. That's a relatively new firm that you founded. How much have you used AI to get off the ground running, for example, to catch up with the bigger folks who have been at it for a long time?
So Beneficial, that's my boutique law firm. I started my career in a bigger law firm of about 500 attorneys, a national business law firm. I was then legal counsel and then senior counsel at a large global private equity firm. And I started Beneficial to address one pretty narrow area of regulatory compliance, and it's grown and expanded to handle a variety of outsourced legal operations and also provide fractional GC and COO services to clients focused on the investment community. In my view, it's a really exciting time to be a lawyer. I think a lot of people are saying it's a bit of a scary time to be a lawyer.
Yeah, like let dive into that. Like, why are you excited at the moment?
I think to actually effectively incorporate technology, effectively incorporate legal AI, and be part of transforming the profession is huge. I think what gets really lost in a lot of the noise about, hey, AI is going to take legal jobs, is the democratization and the increase in access to justice and access to legal services that AI is providing. Even at my level, the ability for a small firm to historically do what big firms were doing, or for a medium firm to be able to do what mega firms were doing, that's happening with the use of AI. And I think, obviously, in these business focused environments, you're talking about enterprise clients, you're talking about big business. One of the most exciting parts about legal AI is that it's going to help the little guy. We have an absolute crisis in this country about access to justice. And the amount of people that can afford a lawyer, that can be able to write a demand letter to their landlord, that can be able to handle expungement, that can be able to handle a divorce without a lawyer. It's a big problem in this country how few people are able to access legal knowledge.
So it's basically a bunch of unmet demand that AI can provide the supply of legal support that has just been lacking a lot of the time.
I think on the lower end of the kind of income and sophistication spectrum, yes. And then the amount of general counsels, CFOs, et cetera, I talk to that just say, yeah, we just handle this in-house because we don't have a good place to send it outside. And the amount of non-lawyers who are saying that, CFOs, principals of businesses saying, I would love to send this type of document, this consent, this service contract, whatever it may be, to outside counsel, but they don't really want to do it, and it's so expensive. And even among sort of real enterprise users, there's a lot of unmet demand. And there's a lot of legacy firms that don't want to meet that demand.
I have this natural tendency, and I suppose a lot of other people listening might too, that they see AI or even legal AI in particular as an efficiency play. But there's another part of me that thinks, okay, that's only one part of the story, that there are all of these other productivity plays, or what you can do with your brain when you're not doing all of that basic legwork. Do you think that efficiency thing is a misconception, or there are other misconceptions that folks have when they think about integrating AI?
There's definitely misconceptions with integrating AI. I think the part that you started with about freeing up bandwidth to kind of do more important work is really important. And it's not something that's easy to quantify, right? When you're in a busy legal department, and I was in a very busy legal department, pretty thinly staffed, the ability to sort of stop, think, what am I doing today to provide value to my business? How can I actually give good advice to our board? How can I give good advice to our investment community? That is very, very hard to do when you're just cranking through documents all the time. Really hard as a legal professional to manage that. And then in terms of the efficiency play and what are the misconceptions associated with that, the most common ones I see are the one, kind of using AI introduces meaningful new room for error. 2, that quality will be sacrificed. 3, that it can create additional liability. Maybe that it creates job loss, things like that. And most often, yes, these are perception issues. I think decision makers don't always understand the ways legal AI coupled with attorneys can reduce error, or the ways to involve professionals in the process to not sacrifice quality, or to the right guardrails to reduce liability, right? It often has to be a conversation about the whole system and not just kind of tech product.
Liability is a really interesting word. I think liability and I think about compliance. And then I am surprised at how often people wing it when it comes to compliance issues, where it's not even like, is the AI good enough to do it? It's like a lot of organizations don't even pay attention to it and hope they're just not in the spotlight. They don't get audited. They don't get called out by someone.
So I don't think necessarily that compliance teams, organizations deliberately play fast and loose, but the compliance burden in some industries can be so overwhelming, especially for smaller companies where you don't have a compliance team. You don't have a chief compliance officer and 5 senior compliance officers to monitor every transaction that goes on. So in those instances, I really think AI can be a great tool. More importantly, I think it helps companies that are regulated but aren't at the size and scale where they have the ability to build up a huge compliance function. The other thing I think you have to think about is compliance is a huge bucket, and there's not going to be a tool that's sort of the silver bullet for everything, whether it's healthcare, defense, government, financial. There's so many areas where things work differently, but I've definitely seen some really exciting applications where I was coming from in a financial regulatory environment. There's some really great AI applications around AML, KYC, sanctions monitoring, onboarding volumes of contractual counterparties with ongoing screening. Like many things, it will be human run and AI assisted if it's done right.
Yeah, I'm broadly on board with that. You have to expect that AI, like humans, is going to make errors if it's, until AI is trained on literally every piece of data in the world, and that even assumes it's good data. Like there are going to be things it can't do or it doesn't do well. And so, like, thinking about risks for a second, like those risks are real. And, you've been on the receiving end of this, and I've certainly thought, oh my God, the legal team is just being that boring blocker, or like, why is this taking so long? Where do like the boring people in the legal team have a point about all of these AI risks and the need to, slow down and do it properly?
Hey, there are no boring people on the legal team. We're all boring people, so you don't have to single out any boring people. So as I was saying earlier, like this goes into, I think it's a really exciting time to be a lawyer. So lawyers have the opportunity to lead here. There's not a lot of instances where lawyers have the opportunity to lead in organizations, especially instances where lawyers can drive meaningful, tangible monetary value. And it's not just coming up with a acceptable AI use policy for our organization. If you think about organizations with big legal spend, with big compliance spend, actually, general counsels don't get the ability often to say to their board, to their CEO, hey, I found a way to save $500,000. This is one of these instances.
He sees as the business development team or the business engine. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's usually in most organizations thought of as a cost center. Do more with less, right? You don't. It's very hard to get additional legal headcount in most organizations. So when you're coming up with, hey, how can we use AI to enable our business? Not only is it an opportunity for lawyers to provide thought leaderships to their boards and to their C-suite, but it's also an opportunity for lawyers to find meaningful, tangible dollars that matter to the organization.
In your mind, is that going to come down a lot to finding the sort of more specialized AI applications that, can really zero in on a specific business pain point? And my self-interest as someone working at Robin is hopefully that is the case. But, I don't know if that's true.
So if you take a step back, one of the biggest issues among like the enterprise segment and AI adoption is the dizzying amount of tools, legal tech vendors that are out there. Clients that I talk to, my investment firm clients, corporate clients, sort of say that they just get constant inbounds from legal tech providers and they don't even know where to start. It's a huge issue. Like that's one of the biggest impediments right now. And there are so many products. And I use the word product deliberately. Most companies call it product. And a lot of buyers of real legal services, like meaningful scale buyers, aren't necessarily looking for product. They're looking for real solutions that they can feel good about. They're looking for relationships with trusted vendors that can get the work done reliably and deliver it to the customer in a way that makes their life easier. There's a reason why law firm rates keep going up and up, and law firms keep having record year after record year. It's not because the billable hour is dead. People love to talk about the billable hour being dead. We're not even close, right? Most buyers of legal services don't ultimately want to be responsible at the end of the day for the use of legal AI tools in their organization. They want a human to answer questions. They want a human to discuss things with, and they want the gains from AI and the efficiency and the productivity from AI, but they're not looking to fully take that burden on in-house.
And they want one or two things, not 50 touch points on AI, presumably as well, which
for sure
you might easily find yourself like literally like you're at Macy's or something trying to do a Christmas.
It's hard. It's a tough position to be in. And I think going back to your question, like my guess is that there will be room for product companies. There will be room in multiple layers of the tech stack in legal AI delivery. But customer-centric vendors are going to be more likely to make meaningful change in the industry and disrupt the law firm model. Not all businesses and clients are created equal. And one of the problems that more product-focused providers make is saying this product solves all your problems, and it treats all clients equally. This is something that the good law firms are really good at, making clients feel unique and responding directly to their problems. And I know that Robin does a good job of this, really trying to figure out, hey, what are client pain points? How can we design around it? What types of documents are you looking at? What are the repeated issues coming up? Why are they coming up? Can we resolve it in 10 seconds versus 10 minutes by using this clause instead of that clause when we know you're fine with both?
If you think out there in the investor community or what people's expectations of AI are, they think like in those software product terms. But we offer software and services because we've absorbed some of this point that you're making, that people would like to have another person to talk to. Like they want us using our own software to do the job of a law firm, more or less. And that's more comforting and interesting to them than just like us sending over a login to a piece of software sometimes.
Definitely. And I think I sometimes hear human in the loop. It's not a bad phrase. And I think companies that are more than just tools and even more than just human in the loop are going to be the ones that are successful. Human in the loop, when you're talking about like sheer execution, hey, I need a human in the loop to handle this 1,000 type of highly commoditized documents. Fine. But aside from the human in the loop, who's really taking time to understand the customer? What's their why? What do they really need? And yes, I understand this type of vision, Ryan, isn't quite as scalable as a software subscription that people just use and becomes a $1 trillion tech vision. Making AI and legal tech into a relationship business is inherently less scalable, but the good vendors will at least feel like that to the customer.
Exactly. Now let's dive a bit into like some practical uses of AI that happen on a daily or weekly basis in your firm. And I'm thinking Corporate Transparency Act, which has faced many twists and turns.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, this is a U.S. anti-money laundering law that my firm has helped thousands of entities comply with. It's one of several things we do, but it's been a core focus for us. And it's been a roller coaster for sure. And I think there's a whole national motion sickness about the roller coaster ride that this law has been through. There are AI uses in my firm regarding Corporate Transparency Act. I would say that they are more towards the larger end of the scale where companies have to look through hundreds or thousands of legacy documents to figure out, hey, who did we appoint as senior officers at this, these 500 entities? And that could be who's reportable in the Corporate Transparency Act. And having to go through them manually, right, is incredibly time consuming and expensive. And there are some AI benefits to smaller clients as well. But the main benefits And it's one of the most exciting use cases of AI is just dealing with the volume problem.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I used to think of AI as helping a team cope with complicated regulatory burdens, and CTA definitely qualifies up there. And then since Donald Trump got back into office, like I started to realize, hang on, things can just really change on a day-to-day basis. And that maybe AI's best value isn't in sort of foreseeing a regulation that's coming up, but allowing a really quick pivot and a smart reaction. And the idea I have in my mind here is that there are going to be all of these changes and challenges to diversity programs and the cutting of federal funds around them. It's going to be important for people to figure out to spot where they might be at risk, to come up with language for the things they want to preserve that minimize or eliminate that risk. And I don't know how you do it without something like AI.
It's a good question. I think the ongoing regulatory monitoring is a pretty interesting element, and it goes a lot more than just kind of federal law. If you think about a company doing business in 50 states, and
that's actually the real use, isn't it? You can do it once, you can't do it 50 times if you're a small business.
Yeah, I mean, it's not tracking executive orders or whatever. That's one thing. Tracking state law changes, tracking local law changes, that can be really hard. And you can rely on a network of law firms and lobbyists and things like that to do your best. But the potential AI application of using machine learning to automate of ongoing regulatory changes, pretty interesting. Let's take, for example, an investment firm, that is trying to raise money in all 50 states. They've complied with blue sky laws or whatever it may be. They are going to raise money from sophisticated investors in 50 states. The ESG rules in those states are shifting incredibly quickly. How does that align with ESG policies in your firm? How does it align with federal ESG directives? Those types of things, I think, are pretty interesting applications. Things can change really quickly. So I think not just the federal, but the state and local. And one thing that transactional lawyers get a little caught up in thinking about AI is the massive amount of change that is happening on the litigation side, the massive AI adoption that's happening there. And if you think about a company and their compliance with laws, forget about state and federal and local law, how quickly a court order can change what a company's doing. It used to be to figure out whether a court case impacts you. It's tons of legal research through Pacer, digging thousands of pages. And there's a lot of pretty impressive AI tools to really streamline that.
I was thinking as well that, a lot of the barrier to adoption around AI sometimes is just human resistance. Like people don't trust it, they don't care for it, they're going to retire in 5 years. They think they can just ride out the AI wave or whatever that might be. Have you sort of got any magic tricks for dealing with people that just have their head in the sand on AI, or anything where you've really noticed that people have been able to flip a switch? Like, okay, I get it now. Like, finally, you've got my attention.
I think the first and most important thing is to meet people where they're at, to not be dismissive of real concerns, and more importantly, don't be dismissive of important people just because technology is the direction of travel. I think that is incredibly lazy and destroys credibility. I think there's no way around that. You cannot just tell your target customers that AI is the way of the future and it doesn't matter what you think. You really have to listen to the important people. If there's somebody who you have to listen to, I like to think about, what can I do to make that somebody look smarter? It could be a general counsel who's under constant pressure to reduce costs and reduce headcount or maintain headcount, and generally to do more with less. And as I said, lawyers don't kind of often get to deliver the monetary wins. So can you help them deliver that win? I talk to CFOs that are under pressure to reduce headcount, It's not that they want to reduce headcount, but can you help them find $100,000 in their budget by changing vendors and changing providers and efficiently using AI and help them deliver that win without the headcount sacrifice? So some of those types of, really understanding what's driving your decision maker and meeting them where they're at.
So do you have any sort of thoughts or advice around some of those longer term trends that folks should keep in mind, as they seek out those short term gains or try and please that decision maker? Like what is the underlying thing that they've got to keep their eye on and not forget about? Because that's what's going to matter in 5 years or 10 years.
The most important thing to me is understanding your organization's tech stack and how it's going to hold up long term during a period of intense transformation. So yes, it can be tempting to chase a short-term win and to find $100,000 here or 50 grand there if you're an organization looking to use AI. What can be a lot harder is for mature companies to pivot away from legacy technology. And that can be a huge impediment towards making meaningful long-term change. It's not something that anybody wants to do. Nobody wants to say, hey, let's look at our 10 key, vendors in our layer right now, and how are these going to hold up 3 to 5 years from now? It's not that kind of strategic planning. It's not something that companies are dying to do. But if you don't do it in advance, you often get burned.
Now I'm going to get selfish for a second. That's what I think of when I think contract lifecycle management companies, which is not to say that they can't integrate AI or they can't partner with a good AI company. But I think about them as this kind of sort of old technology. And there are so many legal teams that are kind of stuck with them, or, they're fighting the last war and think, okay, well, we've got this CLM now. We don't need to worry about AI. And I feel like, oh, guys, if I could just help you see the light, it would be so much better for you.
Yeah, I think they can be useful. Many of them claim to sort of be AI enabled, right?
And it's really just like a search engine for your contracts most of the time.
Yeah, and oftentimes it doesn't even do that well. I think part of the problem is that organizations thought CLMs would kind of be their silver bullet for contracting, whether it was we've grown over the years and we have this organization, we have bad data integrity, whatever it may have been that prompted the need for CLM. And organizations kind of implement CLMs, and then it just, becomes another part of their tech stack that can be pretty rigid and not nimble in the way that a truly AI native application can be. I guess my short answer is I don't think all CLMs are terrible. I just think a lot of times they fail to live up to promise and expectation. And then when you sort of want to dig deeper in a way that AI can help you with, when you talk to a lawyer and you ask a question, it often prompts more questions. So it's like asking your query of a CLM and then needing to go deeper and deeper and deeper. It's really hard to accomplish that in a non-AI native CLM.
Yeah, you got to avoid the dead ends. Well, let's end on something fun. If we could forget legacy tech and just imagine a bright future, what is something that you would love AI to be your sidekick on? We're the AI Sidekick podcast. You had a magic wand. What would the AI be doing for you?
The cool thing is that AI is already doing a lot of things that I don't want to do. I think a lot about how I can deliver value to my clients in terms of whether it's a lower rate, whether it's cost certainty, predictability, things like that. So a few things that AI is already doing, kind of the collaboration and assistant support functions, and really making it so you can, you don't need a $80,000 a year assistant with full benefits in your office to do a great job keeping you organized. You don't need a $200,000 associate taking notes on every call and billing a client at $600 an hour. You don't need them transcribing those notes and updating every step of the checklist. So there are really interesting things that you can use AI for and use it for responsibly now. And then kind of the dreaded, hey, review these 100 contracts for this provision. I think there's a lot of queries that come from clients like that make lawyers chronically the unhappy people uh, in the room. And I think, yeah, like there's AI that's doing so much of that. So like, that's my happy note is like, I think we're in a great place. I think adoption, is continuing to increase. It's not a straight line, but I really see a lot of future promise and continued adoption across a continuum of clients, whether it's small business or the absolute massive investment firm.
Actually, I think that's a really good point, because lawyers are traditionally a bit slow to take up technology. The people who are providing legal AI have had 2 or 3 years to really get their house in order. And if you're starting to buy now or in the next couple of years, well, you're getting a much better version than what existed 2 years ago. So you're kind of a winner if you jump in now.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think it's an exciting time for lawyers who are effectively using AI to deliver it to their clients. It takes work. It's not, I can just pass on, the use of a tool, right? It takes understanding of clients' goals, understanding their parameters in terms of what they're willing to use AI for organizationally. It takes understanding of what they're willing to sacrifice. I think, let's be real sometimes and not just only talk about upside of AI adoption, right? There's like everything, there's trade-offs. Like, are you moving away from a law firm? Okay. Are you sacrificing some liability coverage? Are you sacrificing the ability to just forward it at midnight to some associate and have them deal with the contract counterparty first thing in the morning? What are you truly sacrificing? And I think if you can sort of become intellectually honest about all that, you can deliver things to clients in an amazing way that is going to add a ton of value to the business.
Excellent. Well, we're all here for the honesty and the real talk. Jordi Goodman, thank you for joining the AI Sidekick.
Thanks, Ryan.
Now it's time to bring in 2 experts from Robin AI to run our Hero Hotline, where we answer your questions, your concerns, your challenges. Call it advice, call it food for thought, call it whatever you want. The idea here is to help you get the ROI you need from AI. In the Hero Hot Seat today, we've got Tremail Turner, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Robin AI, and Sabrina Pervez, who's Director of Alternative Assets and also founder of the Women in Legal AI Network.
Up today, a question from Daniel, who wants to know what is the best argument for buying specialist AI tools. And the context here is that Daniel's colleagues say they like using ChatGPT, but his company also likes not paying for professional products. And his point is, I buy MacBooks and iPhones. I don't buy cheap generic equipment. So I think we should be thinking about AI the same way. That sounds right up Robin's alley, but I'll throw it over to the experts for their feedback.
Well, I think Daniel's intuition is spot on. So let's sort of zoom out a little first. You have these wonderful frontier models. And by the way, Robin partners with a frontier model developer, Anthropic, and we evaluate every frontier model that's available just to see if there are certain nuances or advances that might support our customers and their ultimate business goals. But what we know for a fact is that those frontier models are generic frontier models. They don't have the deep context of what we do within the legal profession. And they certainly don't have the even deeper context of what our customers are specifically doing. And so when we use our distillation models, we leverage information coming from our customers in order to enhance the model's feedback and the responses that they give in order to give the very best contextually appropriate answer. Further, when you're looking at sort of one of these vertically integrated models or very industry specific models, you're looking at a tremendous amount of trial and error and research and development and really just the rigor of making sure that the model is producing the most correct output and the most appropriate output for the case in hand. Now, what we all know is that the legal field, to some degree, is a creative endeavor, and that laws and covenants and warrants and all of the things that surround the legal universe, they're up for interpretation. And when you have a service that can provide you a solid answer, but can enhance even that answer with expert practitioners, You're now in the space of being able to deliver a world-class solution that will far exceed anything that a generic frontier model is able to deliver.
Thanks, Tramal. The only thing I think I would add to everything Tramal's already offered is that often when thinking about AI through a specialist lens or with a specific use case in mind, also actually encourages kind of improved adoption in organizations as well. And I think for firms to see, the best returns when it comes to the efficiency savings possible through kind of purchasing and adopting an AI tool, you need those within your organization to genuinely use it and start updating their workflows accordingly. And I think what we sometimes see is that when teams have access to just a very generalist tool, being able to kind of integrate that into pre-existing workflows is often harder because it's hard to know where to begin or exactly where it can be most helpful. But when you use kind of an AI tool that's specifically optimized for something that already exists as a challenge for you day to day as part of your workflow, it's easy for teams to kind of know that there's a tool here that they can use and go to, and it's going to provide time savings, or it's going to improve accuracy, or it's just going to generally help speed things up for them. And I think knowing that you can trust that a tool has been specifically designed for you and for your use case just improves confidence. It improves access to the tool. And as I said before, just improves adoption generally. And I think if the ultimate goal here for Daniel's team is to improve efficiency gains overall, then adoption is something that's worth thinking about as part of this conversation too.
Very wise advice. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Tramal. Thanks for tuning into the AI Sidekick. I hope you're now feeling more confident about implementing AI into your business. If you found today's conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe and share it with your colleagues. For more insights or to see how Robin AI can help you make contracts simple, check out robinai.com. See you next time.